on, man. Our first podcast.
Oh my gosh, man. I am so excited to get going on this. It's gonna be awesome.
So am I, man. This is so cool. It's been a long time coming.
Yep.
You've been a huge part of this.
Yes.
All along.
I mean, not all along. I started working with you on it like 3 years ago, helping with the book. But you've been working on it for years.
I have been researching and exploring and really diving into what I call the root of reality.
Yeah.
Right. But about 3 years ago, when I took an inventory of all of that stuff and ideas and crazy concepts and everything, if they're all in a big warehouse, I didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And you and I have always been super close.
Yeah.
And I just remember, it was about 3 years ago. We happened to run into each other at a bar, right?
Yep.
And out of the blue, my mind's packed full of stuff,
ideas and everything. Yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden you start asking me questions, sharing with me these things you're experiencing in your life. And you have these sort of big questions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I was blown away. I was so blown away. I was like, whoa, man, time out. We need to go to lunch next week.
It was a crazy synchronicity, right?
It really was.
Exactly the things that I had been thinking about when I bumped into you. I was like, dude, I just got to share some. I've just been thinking through all this stuff. And then you're like, oh man, I have been way down this rabbit hole. Let's talk. So
yeah,
it was awesome.
I think I gave you a dozen books to read.
Yes.
I was like, here, go read all these books, but let's go to lunch.
Yeah.
And we just had this really amazing conversation. And from that kind of moment on, you jumped on this journey with me.
Yep.
And you've been a massive part of it. And I just, first, being our first podcast, I just want to thank you.
Oh, dude.
I want to make sure you and anybody, our audience, any of our followers, they know how grateful I am.
Thanks, dude.
For how big of a help you've been in everything that's been created through this. The book, which launches in a couple of weeks, digital.
Yep. Oh, excited.
Huge project.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Writing a book is not easy. Creating a fictional, fantasy fiction novel. Right? Yeah. Okay. Now that was a life task. That there was a few times where I looked back and went, now, why did I give myself this task?
This particular challenge.
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you made it a lot of fun. Not only that, you got me out of a lot of tough spots.
Oh man. No,
there was so many times.
It was so helpful for me. And like I said, asking those questions, early on, one of the things you told me was, look at your reality and ask yourself, what are the variables to your reality?
Yeah.
And I loved how you put that. It caused me to think in such a different way.
Very cool.
And ultimately led us down this path and building this. But
yeah, totally, man.
I don't know, how did you originally, I guess, come up with that idea, or how did you start down that path?
Yeah, man. The equation, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's been an incredible journey, and it really started with this journey that I found myself on, because I ended up in this time in my life where on one side, crushing my goals, everything going great. On the other side, why am I thinking this way, and why am I feeling this way, and why do I feel like my reality isn't like what it's supposed to be if I was, go write down all the things I'm grateful for.
Sure.
Right? And so I just threw myself into this question of what is the root of reality?
Right.
Now, we'll talk about this a lot through our podcast. We'll have a lot of fun with this. But what I found as I started going down this rabbit hole is that, okay, the root of reality is my thinking, my perspective, my point of view, what I'm focused on,
Sure.
right? Okay. What's creating that thinking? All the different kinds of thinking.
Right.
Well, what I found is that emotion was, of all the things, it was the most closely attached
Right.
to that. It was the common denominator
Right.
of what was really driving that thinking.
Yep.
A lot to be talked about there.
For sure. And a lot of different types of emotions and
yeah,
all
absolutely.
that. Yes.
All that. And then as you go further down the rabbit hole, you ask the question, well, okay, what is the root of these emotions?
Yeah.
What is the root of emotion, right? Long discussion.
Yes.
But what I found was it was belief.
Yeah.
Right? Belief is what's really driving those emotions. I tend to think now that all emotions are tied to a belief,
Yeah.
right? They're in set membership, as we express in the equation. In fact, we could pull that up if you wanted to real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we have a
let's see,
a doc here with it.
Yeah, there you go.
Right on. So if we look at the equation, right, what is the root of reality? And if we were to think of this, so let me just throw this out real quick. We have reality, we have thought, we have emotion, and we have belief.
Right.
And we've got this little symbol here. And this, what this expresses is that beliefs and emotions are in set membership with each other. So you can kind of think of that as, beliefs deliver emotions, and emotions are tethered to beliefs, right? And they kind of just go hand in hand. And if we were to think of this like, an algebraic equation, right? Think of 1 plus x equals 2.
Yeah.
Right? So we have equals 2. Here we have equals r.
Right.
Right. What if we make equals 2 equals 3?
Right.
X has to change.
Yeah.
And so where this came from is, when I was kind of going down this path and discovering these concepts and really discovering myself and what was going on, I got to a point where I could ask the question, well, okay, now that I am in these various times in my life and having these experiences and feeling these certain ways, what if I broke those down into these components?
Right. And experiment with it and adjust things.
Exactly.
Right.
Collect information, get data, categorize it into each one of these.
Which is hard to do.
It was incredibly hard to do.
Yeah.
Especially when you're
living it,
yeah,
exactly.
When you're not in a good place to do that.
Yeah.
The times I wanted to do this is when I didn't feel like I was on the right path in my life,
right?
Where I felt like something was just wrong.
Yeah.
I was struggling with anxiety.
Yep.
Struggling with, just different things in my life that I didn't want to feel anymore. I didn't want to have those struggles anymore. And so as I start to, operate within that emotional state and collecting all of that data and putting it, categorically into an inventory, right? Of here was my reality. This is what I was thinking. Here were my emotions. And the belief part was hard.
Yeah.
We don't want to know what our beliefs are.
Right.
And I'm not talking about big macro beliefs,
Yeah.
right? I believe the moon is real, and, I may have a faith, or I have societal beliefs, cultural beliefs. There's these big macro beliefs. There's also these micro beliefs, right? Now, they're not micro in the sense of they're not meaningful or they're not hugely impactful. They're very meaningful and they're hugely impactful. They literally, I believe now, choose our reality.
Yeah.
Right. I call them micro simply because they're within a microsphere of ourself. They are my beliefs.
Yeah.
Only. You don't share this unique little belief that I have.
Right.
We share other beliefs.
Right.
But these ones are more like,
they're based off of like your own experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we develop, we adopt them from all sorts of things. We adopt them through experiences. We adopt them through conditioning, through traumas, through, there's really positive ones, through really amazing things that happen to us,
Right.
So there's all of these things, but they can be as simple as, a belief that we don't articulate them to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to articulate this, a couple of examples.
Sure.
And you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I get that's, everybody knows that. No, that's the point. Nobody knows it.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to know it.
Yeah.
To know that, take an example of beliefs I've struggled with in the past. I used to, until I identified this belief, it was a belief like if somebody is not getting back to me that I've reached out to, there's something wrong.
Right.
Or maybe they don't like me anymore.
Yeah.
Or maybe I upset them.
Sure.
It was just like a standard thing that
Yeah.
if that didn't happen, this is how I felt. I didn't even know the belief.
Right.
But there was a reason why I had that belief. It was an installed program belief that was back there.
Yeah.
And that created a set of emotions. Those emotions created a set of thinking, and that thinking created a reality that I was in. And so that's, where the equation was born from, and thinking that if I could get to the point of understanding my beliefs, my kind of like spherical micro beliefs, and I could really find out where they're coming from, even to the point where I'd make a relationship with the version of me that adopted that belief. Right? What might that do to the equation?
Yeah.
Because I'm changing one of the variables.
Right.
What might that do to the rest of the equation?
Right.
It turns out for me, it's been astonishing.
Yeah.
It's been super, super interesting to explore.
As I started working, through this and you were introducing this idea to me, I started with, I can't remember exactly how you proposed it to me, but I started with emotion. That was the first thing that I was digging into, because I could like physically feel it. Like if I have anxiousness, I feel it in my chest always. I know people feel it in different places. I always feel it in my chest. I think I was talking with you about that, and you said something to me that was so helpful. You were like, "That's great," which I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But you were like, "That's great," because that means you've got you use like a fishing term. You're like, you've got a belief on the line. And there's something tethered to that, right?
That's awesome.
And so then whenever I felt that, that was a flag to me. Then I was like, okay, what's tethered to this? That's what I started. I start just with that first piece, right? And everything else came later of then, working back, finding that belief. A lot of times it was like a memory for me, right?
Yeah.
Looking at that, how did that affect me? How did that change me? What was the belief that was installed because of that? How can I make friends with that? And then how has that inform the other things in the equation? So that's how I started with it.
I got to tell you, for me, it's been an honor. I've been so grateful for that, because I was figuring this out, practicing it alone, and then you started practicing it. You were also figuring it out with me, and we were sharing these amazing experiences that we were having. But yeah, that's one of the things. Like if we look at the equation, and you mentioned emotion, it is the gift that we have been given to run the equation. But emotions are the gift that we've been given as a center point for us to be able to understand what's going on, and for us to connect to our beliefs, really. And so, you're absolutely right. I look at negative emotions now, anxieties and fears and different things is a very positive thing. They're not fun to experience.
Right.
It's very difficult. It can be debilitating.
Yeah.
However, if we know what they are, then we can leverage them.
Yeah.
And that's where they become a gift. Don't let it just be a difficult thing in your life. Let it be the tool that it is.
Exactly.
It is tethered to a belief. And the fact that you're in that emotional state, you probably don't need that belief anymore.
Yeah.
It's probably not helping.
Yeah.
And again, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Big discussion.
It is a big discussion.
Yeah.
But, the idea of, like you and I share that we feel it in our chest first. I think you have the same thing where like I will start getting tension in my chest before I am emotional.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, for me, in practicing this now for a few years, I find that to be such a gift.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden I'm getting tension in my chest, I'm like, oh, wow, I need to run the equation.
Yeah.
And that's when, we talk about this as we're operating in a dual capacity.
Yeah.
Right? I'm emotional and I'm dealing with whatever I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And if you can bring curiosity to the fold while you're doing that, like literally in a dual capacity, so you kind of got these two lines of thinking going at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with this while I'm also curious.
Right.
Like, what belief is tied to this emotion? We talk about this idea of I wonder being the most powerful two words in the universe, right?
Right.
I wonder what belief is tied to this emotion.
Right.
If we can switch and get ourselves into that curiosity,
yeah,
we are leveling up in the game of life like no other.
Yeah.
And it's not a switch of I'm going to switch from being emotional to being curious.
Right.
No, you're going to be emotional. Don't stop those emotions.
Right.
They'll just build up and you'll blow up.
Yeah.
But you really are kind of layering on top of the emotions, the curiosity, and that's that dual capacity. And it's a very, very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
And it takes practice. But when we can do that in this sort of dimension that we live in, right? We live in a 3-dimensional space in which we are only moving forward in time.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. And it's, if with some imagination, you can say that's a relatively restrictive dimension of reality.
Yeah.
And we have to operate within that.
Right.
And so I think that that's where a lot of this comes in, and it becomes really powerful when you can start to sort of look beyond that a little bit.
Yeah.
And understand maybe a greater reality of how these things are operating and why we're there. Sometimes you got to be brave.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to be brave to listen to yourself at that level, right? And get to know yourself at that level.
Right.
I've found a lot of them that were embarrassing.
Totally.
Or just frustrating, or just why did I waste my time with that so long?
Exactly.
Or I don't know if I can stop believing that because I don't have a reason why I need to stop believing that, but and I know it's not helping me, but that one's hard. These
Exactly.
are the things that we deal with, but it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting, and there's so much we don't know in this.
And ultimately that's the point of the podcast, that we're going to meet with, we'll have a lot of guests on here and explore that with them as well. Like explore their experiences, see those moments in their life, that they chose a path that led them to, some of the remarkable things that they've done for the people we have lined up. So I'm so excited to get into that.
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun, man. Like, it's extraordinary people that we've already been talking to that are excited to be on the show. And you nailed it. Like, getting into that conversation of that intersection of their life, right?
Right.
The intersection of like circumstance and decision, was there. And they ended up, choosing a path that ended up doing extraordinary things.
Right.
Like in that moment, if we were to kind of break it down into the equation, like what was going on?
Yeah.
Did you have beliefs that were counter to what you were trying to do, but you were just so crazy passionate about what you were trying to do?
Right.
You just, were able to just move beyond those. Like, could we find that? Can we reverse engineer that?
Right. Figure out how they did it to see how can I do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
that's going to be awesome.
And also learning, like everyone that you and I have been working with, coaching as we've been building out the Solving for R agency, like all the different things that we've been involved in, the writing of the book, all the storytelling, the idea, concept, everything, we've been learning more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
Like, any session that I have with somebody, I come out of that with like 10 pages of notes.
Yeah.
Because they teach me.
Yeah.
And you teach me. The more we get people talking about this idea, the more perspective that is applied to it and 10, 20 pages of notes come out of it.
Right.
And it's so cool. And I can't wait to learn from folks on, how might this, how do they view it?
Yeah.
And what sort of tactical strategies would they use in deploying it? And how could that improve what we're trying to do?
Totally.
So that's my hope.
Yeah.
For this.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a blast, man. It's going to be
awesome.
a blast. And thank you again.
Dude.
It's been just unbelievable how much effort has been put into this, and your contributions and everything that we've done over the last 3 years getting to this point.
Oh, of course, dude.
It's been
so much fun.
So awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's been so awesome. And I'm just so excited to take it to the next level. And now we're kind of at this point where I feel like we've really, developed it.
Yes.
And now we can
Practiced
start having some fun with it and really take it to the next level. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude.
It'll be a blast.
Absolutely.
Right on, man.
Okay.
Good deal. Well, let's do some more of these.
We'll do.
Right on. Good deal.
Let's do it.
Okay, man. Till next time.
Till next time.
All right, bud.
See ya.
Bye.